Commander Zethara watched the sky burn above her home city. Giant metal ships hung in the air like dark clouds, casting shadows over everything below. The Valafi people ran through the streets, their blue-green skin pale with fear. Children cried as their parents carried them toward the emergency shelters. The Krillian horde had found them at last. Zethara pressed her webbed hand against the communication console. Her people were known across the galaxy for being peaceful. They created medicine from living plants and built their cities to work with nature instead of against it. They had never hurt anyone, but now the machines had come to destroy everything they loved. "How long do we have?" she asked Dr. Velmos, who stood beside her checking the defense readings. "Our shields will hold for maybe 6 hours," he said, his voice shaking. "Maybe less. Their harvesting machines are already eating the outer settlements." Through the tall windows of the communication center, Zethara could see the terrible sight. Giant robots moved across the land like hungry insects. They tore up trees, rocks, and buildings, feeding everything into their metal bellies. Where they passed, nothing remained but bare dirt. "Send the message," Zethara ordered. "Send it to everyone." Dr. Velmos activated the galaxy-wide communication system. His words went out across space to every known world and star system. "This is the Valathi Republic asking for help right now. The Krillian horde has attacked our system. Our defenses are breaking down. We will give our complete collection of medical knowledge to any people willing to help us. Please answer." They waited. The first hour passed with no response. Outside, more Krillian ships landed. The sound of their machines grew louder as they came closer to the city. Then the answers started coming in. The first message came from the Centauri Empire. Their words appeared on the screen in cold, formal language. "The Centauri Empire expresses deep concern about your situation. However, we are currently dealing with important matters in our own territory. We cannot provide military assistance at this time." Zethara felt her heart sink. The Centauri had the biggest fleet in this part of the galaxy. If they would not help, who would? The next message came from the Etherian Collective. "We feel great sadness for your suffering. However, our ancient laws prevent us from interfering in conflicts between other species. We will pray for your safety." "Prayers will not stop the machines," Dr. Velmos said bitterly. More messages came in, each one a new disappointment. The Zephyrian Union claimed their entire fleet was busy with training exercises. The Trade Federation said helping would violate their neutrality agreements. The Crystal Worlds offered to take refugees after the planet was destroyed, but would send no ships to fight. One by one, every major power in the galaxy found reasons to say no. Some offered sympathy. Others suggested trying to talk to the Krillians, even though everyone knew the machines never made deals or showed mercy. As the third hour passed, Zethara realized they were alone. The great galactic community they had believed in was nothing but empty words. When help was truly needed, no one wanted to risk anything for strangers. The Krillian machines were now only 10 miles from the city. Their terrible noise filled the air. Some of the defense towers had already fallen silent. "Commander," called one of the younger officers, "I'm getting a very weak signal from the outer edge of the galaxy. It's coming from a system I've never heard of before." Zethara hurried to the communication station. The signal was indeed weak, traveling from very far away. She could barely make out the words through the static. "This is Admiral Jake Peterson of the United Earth Fleet. We got your call for help. We are coming to help you. Hold your ground. Double quotes. Dr. Velmos checked his database of known species. "I have never heard of humans before. They are not in any of our records." "Where is Earth?" Zethara asked. The computer showed a small blue and green planet in a distant corner of the galaxy. It was far, from any of the major trade routes or political centers. The system had only one star and a handful of small worlds. According to this data, they are a very young species, Dr. Velmos said. They only started traveling between stars about 50 years ago. Their technology is basic compared to the major powers. Another officer looked up from his station. Commander, their fleet is tiny. Only 12 ships total. The Krillians have over 300 vessels in our system alone. Zethara stared at the information on her screen. These humans were small, unknown, and weak compared to the great powers that had refused to help. They were so far away, it would take them weeks to reach the Velothi system. By then, there might be nothing left to save, but they were coming anyway. Send a response, she ordered. Tell them we are grateful, but warn them about the size of the Krillian force. They should know what they are flying into. The answer came back quickly. We understand the odds. We are still coming. Humans do not abandon people who ask for help. As the fourth hour began, the Krillian machines reached the outer edges of the city. The sound of weapons fire echoed through the streets as the remaining defense forces tried to slow them down. Zethara looked at her staff. They were all thinking the same thing. 12 small ships against 300 war machines. It seemed hopeless, but for the first time since the attack began, someone had said, yes. Someone in the vast, cold galaxy had heard their cry for help and decided to answer. How long until they arrive? She asked. 22 days at maximum speed, Dr. Velmos replied. 20-2 days. They had to survive 22 days against an enemy that had already destroyed 3 other worlds in their system. Zethara activated the citywide communication system. Her voice went out to every Velothi still alive on their dying world. My people, help is coming. I know the odds seem impossible. I know we have been abandoned by those we thought were our friends. But somewhere across the galaxy, people we have never met are risking everything to save us. We must hold on. We must survive. If not for ourselves, then for them. Outside, the machines kept coming. But inside the communication center, something had changed. They were no longer completely alone. Someone was coming to help, no matter how far they had to travel or how dangerous the fight would be. The humans were coming. The emergency meeting room in Geneva was louder than President Lisa Martinez had ever heard it. Delegates from every nation on Earth shouted at each other across the big table. The holographic display in the center showed the Kepler system, where alien people were dying while everyone argued. This is madness. General Ron Hayes slammed his hand on the table. We cannot risk our entire fleet for people we know nothing about. What if this is a trap? Director Amy Walsh stood up, her face red with anger. A trap? General, we have received detailed scans of the destruction. 3 planets are already dead. This is not a trick. Admiral Jake Peterson stood quietly by the wall, watching the heated debate. He had been in many military meetings, but never one where the future of humanity's place in the galaxy was being decided. The question is simple, said Dr. Frank Morris, Earth's top alien expert. Do we want to be the kind of people who help others, or the kind who watch them die? Senator Bill Clark from North America shook his head. It's not that simple, Doctor. We have 12 ships. The alien message said there are hundreds of enemy vessels. This could be the end of human space travel forever. President Martinez hit her gavel hard. Order. We will discuss this properly. Admiral Peterson stepped forward. Madam President, may I speak? The room grew quiet. Everyone knew Peterson's reputation. He had led the first human missions beyond the solar system. His word carried weight. I have read the intelligence reports, Peterson said calmly. The Krillian horde is real. They have destroyed dozens of worlds. They take everything and leave nothing behind. The Velathi people are going to die unless someone helps them. But why? Should it be us? Asked General Hayes. Where are the big galactic powers? Why haven't they responded? Peterson looked around the room. Because they are cowards. They have the strength to help, but choose not to. They would rather watch good people die than risk their own comfort. Doctor. Morris activated a holographic display. The Velae have offered their complete medical knowledge in exchange for help. Their biotechnology could cure diseases that kill millions of humans every year. Cancer, aging, genetic disorders. They have treatments for all of these. So this is about profit? Senator Clark asked. No, Peterson said firmly. This is about who we are. The Velathi offered payment because they are desperate, but we should help them because it is right. Captain Lisa Cole, commander of the USS Liberty, spoke from her position near the door. Admiral, I've run the numbers. Even if we bring our entire fleet, we will be outnumbered 25-1. Our ships are smaller and less advanced than Krillian vessels. The chances of success are very small. Peterson nodded. Captain Cole is correct. This mission will be dangerous. Many of us might not come home, but that is not the point. Then what is the point? General Hayes demanded. Peterson walked to the holographic display. He pointed to the image of the dying Velathi world. The point is that someone asked for help. They sent a message across the galaxy saying, "Please save us." Every major power said no. Every advanced civilization found excuses. But we have the ability to try. Director Walsh nodded. The Admiral is right. This is humanity's first real contact with the galactic community. How we respond will determine what kind of reputation we have for the next 1,000 years. Senator Clark frowned. What if we lose? What if the Krillians follow our ships back to Earth? Then we will face that when it happens, Peterson replied. But we will face it knowing we tried to do the right thing. The debate continued for hours. Some delegates worried about the risk to Earth's small fleet. Others argued that humanity needed to make friends in the galaxy. A few suggested sending only 1 or 2 ships as a token effort. Dr. Morris presented more data about Velathi technology. Their biological computers could revolutionize our industry. Their medical treatments could extend human life by centuries. Their agricultural methods could feed our growing colonies. Doctor, said Admiral Peterson quietly, with respect, that is not why we should go. The room turned to look at him. Then why, Admiral? Peterson was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke in a voice everyone could hear. Because 50 years ago, when we sent our first signals into space, we hoped someone would answer. We hoped that, if we ever needed help, someone out there would care enough to try. Now someone else is sending that same signal. Someone else is hoping that they are not alone in the universe. Captain Cole stepped forward. If we do this, we need to understand the cost. I've read the reports about Krillian technology. Their weapons are more powerful than ours. Their ships are bigger and faster. Even if we use every trick we know, we might all die. I understand the risks, Captain, Peterson said. But I also understand something else. Every great moment in human history happened because someone decided to do what was right instead of what was safe. President Martinez looked around the room. The arguing had stopped. Everyone was thinking about the Admiral's words. Let's vote, she said finally. All in favor of sending our fleet to help the Velathi people. The count was close. Very close. But when the final vote was counted, humanity had decided to act. Within 6 hours, orders went out to every human ship in space. The entire United Earth fleet was to gather at the edge of the solar system and prepare for the longest military mission in human history. Captain Steve Parker of the destroyer USS Ranger was the first to respond. Well, this should be interesting. When do we leave? Tomorrow morning, Admiral Peterson replied. Earth time. As news of the mission spread, something unexpected happened. Volunteers began arriving at every spaceport on Earth. Engineers, doctors, Marines, and pilots all wanted to join the mission. Many were turned away because there was no room on the ships. Dr. Janet Ross, a specialist in alien cultures, managed to get assigned to the USS Constitution, Admiral Peterson's command ship. I want to be there when we make first contact, she told the assignment officer. This could be the most important moment in human history. The night before departure, Admiral Peterson stood on the observation deck of the Constitution, looking at Earth. His communications officer, Lieutenant Ben Wright, joined him. Admiral, we're getting messages from all over the planet. People wishing us good luck. Peterson nodded. Any word from the other galactic powers? Yes, sir. The Centauri are taking bets on how long we'll last. Most think we'll be destroyed in the first hour of combat. And the others? Similar. The Etherians are debating whether to hold a ceremony for us after we're killed. The Zephyrians think we're either very brave or very stupid. Peterson smiled grimly. Maybe we're both. The next morning, 12 human ships left the solar system. They carried the hopes of 8 billion people and the entire future of humanities. Relationship with the galaxy. As Earth grew smaller behind them, Captain Cole sent a message to the fleet. All ships, this is Liberty. We're really doing this. Admiral Peterson's voice came over the communication system. All ships, this is Constitution. We have 21 days to reach the Kepler system. Use that time to prepare for the fight of our lives. The Valathi people are counting on us. Earth is counting on us. Let's not let them down. The small human fleet disappeared into hyperspace, racing toward a battle they might not survive. But they were going anyway, because that's what humans do when someone asks for help. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system, and Admiral Peterson felt his heart sink. The destruction was worse than anything he had imagined. 3 planets that had once been green and alive were now gray balls of rock. Giant Krillian harvesting machines had stripped away everything valuable, leaving behind dead worlds that looked like bones picked clean. The 4th planet glowed red with fires as more machines tore apart its surface. Only one world remained, partly alive. Kepler 442b still showed patches of green on its northern side, but the southern half burned as the machines worked their way across the land. My God, whispered Captain Lisa Cole from the bridge of the USS Liberty. How many people lived on those dead worlds? Lieutenant Ben Wright checked his readings. According to Valathi records, about 2 billion people per planet. 6 billion people dead? And now the machines were working on the last world where the Valathi still lived. Admiral Peterson stood on the bridge of the USS Constitution, looking at the enemy force through the main display. Hundreds of Krillian ships moved through the Chew system like a swarm of metal insects. Each one was bigger than the largest human vessel. Count them, Peterson ordered. 312 vessels, reported the tactical officer, ranging from destroyer-sized ships to that monster near the 4th planet. Peterson stared at the massive Krillian command ship. It was the size of a small moon, covered with weapons and surrounded by smaller vessels, like a queen bee with her. Workers. Captain Steve Parker's voice came over the communication system from the destroyer USS Ranger. Admiral, I'm reading our odds at about 25 to 1. And that's being generous. Then we better make sure we fight smart, Peterson replied. The fleet moved deeper into the system, trying to stay hidden among the asteroids and debris. They needed to get close to the last planet before the Krillians detected them. Commander Paul Smith, leader of the Marine Forces, checked his equipment one more time. Sir, we have 200 Marines ready to go down to the surface. But we don't know what we'll find down there. Dr. Janek Ross, the alien expert, studied the incoming data from the planet. The Valathi are still fighting. I'm reading energy signatures from their cities. They're alive. As they got closer to Kepler 442b, the scale of the battle became clear. Thousands of Krillian ground machines were pushing north, while the remaining Valathi forces tried to stop them. The aliens had put up a good fight, but they were losing. Admiral, called Captain Kate Morrison from the stealth ship USS Shadow, I've found something. The Krillians have 3 main supply lines bringing materials from the surface to there. Big ships. If we could cut those lines. Peterson studied the tactical display. Morrison was right. The Krillians were like a giant factory operation. Cut off their supply chain, and they would have problems. All ships, listen carefully, Peterson announced. We're going to split into 4 groups. Cole, take Liberty and Defender and hit the main harvesting platform. Draw their attention. Morrison, take Shadow and Ghost and go after their supply lines. Smith, get your Marines down to the planet and coordinate with the locals. Everyone else, you're with me. Captain Cole's voice was steady despite the odds. Admiral, that harvesting platform has more firepower than our entire fleet. I know. That's why we're not going to fight fair. The battle began at dawn, planet time. Captain Cole led her ships in a direct assault on the largest Krillian platform, using the morning sun to blind their sensors. The USS Liberty and USS Defender came in fast and low, firing everything they had at the massive structure. The Krillians reacted quickly, sending dozens of ships to stop the human attack. But that was exactly what Peterson wanted. While the enemy focused on Cole's ships, the other human groups moved into position. Captain Morrison's stealth ships slipped through the chaos and began attacking the supply convoys. The Krillians had never faced an enemy that used hit-and-run tactics. They were used to big fleet battles where the stronger side won. Down on the planet, Colonel Beth Taylor led her Marines to the surface. The Valathi who met them were tall, blue-green beings with large eyes and webbed hands. They looked nothing like humans, but the relief on their faces needed no translation. You came, said one of the Valathi commanders in broken English he had learned from their broadcasts. You actually came. We said we would, Colonel Taylor replied. Now let's figure out how to stop these machines. The Valathi showed the humans their weapons and defenses. Their technology was different from anything Earth had ever seen. Instead of metal and circuits, they used living organisms that could grow and adapt. Can you make these biological weapons work with our equipment? Taylor asked her engineers. Sergeant Mike Davis, the team's tech specialist, examined a Valathi weapon that seemed to be part plant, part computer. I think so, Colonel. Give me an hour. In space, the battle was getting desperate. The USS Defender took a direct hit and exploded, killing everyone on board. Captain Cole's ship was badly damaged, with fires burning on 3 decks. Liberty. Get out of there, Peterson ordered. Negative, Admiral. We're not done yet. Cole turned her damaged ship toward the harvesting platform and increased speed. She was going to ram it. Lisa, no, Peterson shouted. Tell my family I did my duty, Cole replied. Then the USS Liberty crashed into the platform at full speed. The explosion was enormous. The harvesting platform, which had been stripping resources from the planet for weeks, broke apart and fell toward the surface in burning pieces. But the cost was terrible. The Liberty and everyone on it was gone. Captain Morrison's voice came over the radio, tight with grief and anger. Admiral, we just took out their main supply depot. These machines are going to be hungry for a while. On the surface, the human Valathi. Cooperation was producing results. Sergeant Davis had figured out how to link human computers with Valathi biological systems. The result was weapons that could adapt to different targets and defenses that could heal themselves. "This is incredible," Dr. Ross reported from the surface. "Their biotechnology is like nothing we've ever seen, and they're sharing all of it with us." But even with the new weapons, the battle was far from over. The Krillians had lost some ships and platforms, but they still had hundreds of vessels. And they were getting angry. The massive command ship began moving toward the planet, its weapons, charging for a bombardment that would kill everything left alive on the surface. Admiral Peterson looked at his remaining ships. 6 vessels against a machine the size of a moon. The odds were impossible. "All ships form up on Constitution," he ordered. "We're going to take that monster down." Captain Dan Brown of the USS Eagle laughed grimly. "Admiral, that thing has enough firepower to destroy a planet. How exactly are we supposed to fight it?" Peterson smiled for the first time since the battle began. "The same way humans have always fought when the odds were against us. We get creative." The plan was insane. The remaining human ships would attack the command vessel from different angles, using the planet's gravity and atmosphere to mask their approach. It was dangerous, and most of them probably wouldn't survive. But as Admiral Peterson looked at the burning world below, where millions of innocent people were still fighting for their lives, he knew they had to try. "All ships, this is Constitution. We came here to save people. That's exactly what we're going to do." The small human fleet turned toward the massive enemy ship, ready to face impossible odds one more time. Across the galaxy, the impossible news was spreading. On the golden world of Centauri Prime, Emperor Thane sat in his crystal throne room, staring at the battle reports with growing disbelief. "Tell me again," he said to Intelligence Chief Veltar. "How many human ships are still fighting?" 6, Your Majesty, out of 12 that originally arrived. "And they are winning battles against the Krillian horde?" "Yes, sir. Their tactics are unlike anything we have seen. They do not fight the way civilized species fight. They are unpredictable, chaotic, and somehow effective." Emperor Thane had ruled the Centauri Empire for 300 years. He had seen many wars and many species rise and fall. But he had never seen anything like this. "Perhaps we underestimated these humans," he said quietly. On the ethereal world of Sithara, the collective's elders gathered in their floating meditation chambers. These ancient beings had practiced non-interference for thousands of years, believing that all conflicts must resolve themselves naturally. But Elder Sithara found herself questioning their ancient ways. "We have watched the humans for 22 days, she said to the assembly. "They could have retreated at any time. They could have saved themselves. Instead, they stay and fight for people they never met." "It goes against all logic," replied Elder Mortith. "They gain nothing from this sacrifice." "Perhaps," Sithara said slowly, "we have forgotten what it means to gain something more valuable than safety." Meanwhile, on the burning surface of Kepler 442b, the tide of war was shifting, in ways no one expected. Human Marines and Velothi fighters worked together, creating new weapons and tactics that neither species could have developed alone. Colonel Beth Taylor watched as Sergeant Mike Davis tested another hybrid weapon. The device looked like a living flower made of metal and flesh, beautiful and deadly at the same time. "How does it work?" she asked. "The Velothi part identifies the target and adapts to its weaknesses," Davis explained. "The human part provides the power and guidance systems. Together, they can punch through Krillian armor like it was paper." Dr. Janet Ross was documenting everything, amazed by how quickly the two species were learning from each other. "Colonel, in just 3 days we've made advances that should have taken years. The Velothi think differently than we do. Where we see problems, they see solutions." The breakthrough came when Dr. Ross made a discovery in the ruins of a Velothi research center. Deep in the damaged building, She found files about Krillian technology that the Velothi had been studying since the attack began. "Colonel, you need to see this," she called excitedly. Taylor and a team of Marines joined her in the underground lab. The walls were covered with Velothi biological computers that looked like glowing coral reefs. "What am I looking at, Doctor?" The Velothi figured out how the Krillian machines communicate with each other. They use a specific frequency that connects all their systems. But here's the interesting part. That same frequency can be disrupted by Velothi bioacoustic systems. Davis studied the data, his mind racing. "Doctor, are you saying we could jam their entire network?" "Better than that, Sergeant. According to this research, if we hit them with the right frequency at the right power level, we could make their machines turn on each other." Colonel Taylor felt a surge of hope for the first time in days. "How do we do it?" "We need to combine human quantum transmitters with Velothi biological amplifiers. And we need to get close enough to their command ship to make it work." In space, Admiral Peterson was leading his 5 remaining ships in a desperate attack on the massive Krillian command vessel. The monster ship was fighting back with weapons that could destroy planets. But the humans were too fast and too unpredictable for the machine minds to track effectively. Captain Kate Morrison, commanding the stealth ship USS Shadow, slipped past the enemy's defenses and planted explosive charges on key weapon systems. Captain Dan Brown used the USS Eagle as a distraction, drawing fire while other ships attacked from different angles, but they were taking heavy damage. The USS Ranger suffered a critical hit and had to fall back with its engines failing. The USS Ghost lost all its weapons and could only provide sensor support. "Admiral," Captain Morrison reported from the Shadow, "I don't think we can keep this up much longer. That thing has too much firepower." Peterson was about to respond when Colonel Taylor's voice came over the communication system from the planet's surface. "Admiral, we have found a way to stop them. But we need to get a specific signal to their command ship. The transmission has to come from close range." "How close?" Peterson asked. "Very close, sir, within a few hundred meters of their hull." Peterson looked at the massive enemy ship, which was now turning its main weapons toward his position. A few hundred meters meant flying directly into the most dangerous place in the system. "What kind of signal, Colonel?" Dr. Ross's voice joined the conversation. "It's a bioacoustic frequency that will disrupt their command network. The Velothi have the biological components we need, but we need human quantum technology to amplify it enough." "How long do you need to prepare this weapon?" 2 hours, Admiral." Peterson checked his tactical display. His ships were running low on ammunition, and several were badly damaged. 2 hours might as well be 2 years. "We'll buy you the time," he said. Somehow, the next 2 hours were the longest of Admiral Peterson's life. His small fleet danced around the massive command ship, using every trick they knew to stay alive. Captain Brown sacrificed the USS Eagle's engines to block a devastating weapon blast aimed at the Constitution. Captain Morrison used the Shadow to create false targets that confused the Krillian targeting systems. On the planet, humans and Velothi worked together with desperate speed. Dr. Ross coordinated the technical teams, while Colonel Taylor organized the defense of their position against increasing Krillian ground attacks. "The machines know we're building something important," Taylor reported. "They're throwing everything they have at us." Sergeant Davis connected the final components of the hybrid weapon. It was beautiful and strange, combining human electronics with what looked like a living brain made of coral and light. "Doctor, I think we're ready," he said. Dr. Ross checked the readings. "Yes, this should work." "Admiral, we need you to get within 300 meters of their command ship and transmit on frequency 847.3 terahertz. Admiral Peterson looked at the massive vessel ahead of him. 300 meters. That meant flying directly into its weapon range with no hope of escape. Understood. Doctor, all remaining ships, this is Constitution. We're going in. Captain Norrison's voice was steady despite the impossible odds. Admiral, Shadow will go with you. If we're doing this, we're doing it together. The two surviving human ships turned toward the enormous Krillian command vessel. Behind them, the USS Ranger limped along on damaged engines, determined not to be left out of the final battle dot as they approached the enemy ship. Admiral Peterson opened a communication channel to the entire galaxy. This is Admiral Jake Peterson of Earth. We came to this system because people asked for help. We're about to try something that might destroy us all. But we want everyone listening to understand something. Humans don't abandon people who call. Out in need, that's who we are. That's who we will always be. The message reached every world, every ship, every government in known space. And for the first time in galactic history, the great powers began to feel shame for their inaction. USS Constitution dove toward the command ship, racing through a storm of enemy fire that lit up space like a deadly light show. Admiral Peterson gripped his command chair as the ship shook from near misses. 200 meters, Admiral, called the navigation officer. 100 meters. 50 meters. Now, Doctor. Send the signal now. The bioacoustic weapon activated, sending its strange frequency directly into the heart of the Krillian command network. For a moment, nothing happened. Then everything changed. The effect of the bioacoustic weapon was beyond anything Dr. Ross had hoped for. The frequency pulse spread through the Krillian command network like a virus, turning their greatest strength into their greatest weakness. Admiral Peterson watched in amazement as the massive command ship suddenly stopped firing at his fleet. Instead, its weapons turned toward other Krillian vessels. Within minutes, the entire enemy fleet was attacking itself in mechanical confusion. "It's working!" shouted Captain Morrison from the USS Shadow. "They're tearing each other apart." Sight was incredible and terrifying. Hundreds of Krillian ships, each one a masterpiece of destructive technology, began destroying each other as their programming broke down. The frequency had turned their unified command system into chaos. On the planet's surface, Colonel Taylor watched through her binoculars as the Krillian ground forces stopped their advance. The machines that had been moving in perfect coordination now wandered aimlessly or fought among themselves. "Dr. Ross, you did it," she said with relief. "The ground forces are completely confused." Dr. Ross wiped sweat from her forehead. The Velothi research was incredible. They understood the Krillian technology better than the Krillians understood themselves. Commander Zethara, who had been coordinating the planetary defense, looked at the human scientists with deep gratitude. "Your people saved us all. How can we ever repay this debt?" Colonel Taylor smiled. "You already have. You asked for help when you needed it. That's all we ever wanted." The space battle ended as suddenly as it had begun. The massive Krillian command ship, torn apart by its own weapons, exploded in a flash of light that could be seen from the planet's surface. Within hours, the remaining enemy vessels had either destroyed each other or fled the system in mechanical. Panicked Admiral Peterson stood on the bridge of the USS Constitution, hardly able to believe they had survived. Of the 12 ships that had left Earth, only 3 remained operational. The USS Shadow, the USS Ranger, and his own vessel had somehow made it through the impossible battle. But they had won. The Velothi were safe. "Admiral," called his communication. "Officer, we're receiving messages from all over the galaxy. Hundreds of them." Peterson nodded tiredly. "Put them through." The first message came from the Centauri Empire. Emperor Thane's voice was formal but respectful. "Admiral Peterson, the Centauri Empire wishes to express our admiration for your victory. We would like to propose a formal alliance between our peoples." Similar messages came from dozens of other civilizations. The Etherian Collective requested permission to establish cultural exchange programs. The Zephyrian Union offered joint military training. The Trade Federation wanted to discuss economic partnerships, but the messages that meant the most came from smaller worlds across the galaxy. Dozens of minor civilizations that had been ignored or bullied by the major powers were reaching out to Earth. They wanted to know more about these humans who had answered a stranger's call for help. 6 months later, the recovery of Kepler 442b was nearly complete. The partnership between humans and Velothi had created advances in both technology and medicine that benefited both species. The biological computers developed during the crisis could solve problems that had puzzled scientists for generations. Dr. Frank Morris, now serving as Earth's ambassador to the Velothi Republic, walked through the rebuilt capital city with Commander Zethara. Where once there had been destruction, now there were gardens that combined human engineering with Velothi biological architecture. "Your cities are more beautiful than before," Morris observed. Zethara's large eyes reflected the sunlight filtering through the living buildings. "We learned from your people that sometimes destruction can lead to something better. We build now not just for ourselves, but for the future we will share." The Terran-Velothi alliance had grown beyond what anyone had imagined. What started as a desperate rescue mission had become something unprecedented in galactic history. 17 different species had joined the alliance, all drawn by the simple idea that civilizations should help each other when help was needed. President Lisa Martinez, now serving as the first Secretary General of the Alliance, received daily reports of new worlds asking to join. The alliance was not built on conquest or trade agreements, but on mutual aid and shared values. "The old powers are nervous," reported General Hayes during a council meeting on Earth. "The Centauri are building more ships. The Zephyrians are forming new military partnerships. They see our alliance as a threat. Let them be nervous," Martinez replied. "We are not trying to threaten anyone. We are simply showing the galaxy that there is a better way to live together." Admiral Peterson, now commanding the expanded Alliance fleet, stood before a holographic display showing the locations of member worlds. They formed a loose network across the galaxy, connected not by geography, but by principle. "Admiral," called Captain Morrison, who had been promoted after her heroism in the Krillian battle. "We're receiving another distress signal, this time from the edge of known space." Peterson walked to the communication station. The message was weak and filled with static, coming from incredibly far away. "This is the last sanctuary of the Photonic Collective. We are under attack by entities from dark space. Our people are dying. If anyone can hear this, please respond. We offer what little we have in exchange for aid. Please, someone help us." The bridge grew quiet. Peterson looked around at his officers, many of whom had been with him since the first mission to save the Velothi. "How far away are they?" he asked. "At least 40 days' travel, sir." "Beyond the edge of our star charts." Captain Morrison checked her tactical displays. "We have 27 ships available for immediate deployment, but we don't know anything about these dark space entities." Peterson thought about the decision that had brought them to this moment. 6 months ago, Earth had been alone in the galaxy, unknown and ignored. Now they led an alliance of worlds united by the simple idea that helping others was more important than helping yourself. "Send a response," he ordered. The communication officer activated the long-range transmitters. Peterson's voice went out across the vast emptiness of space, carrying hope to people he had never met. "This is Admiral Jake Peterson of the Terran-Velothi Alliance. We received your distress call. Help is on the way. Hold the line." Within hours, Alliance ships from 17 different worlds began moving toward the edge of space. Paleo ships that could heal themselves, human vessels equipped with quantum weapons, and ships from a dozen other species, all united in purpose. The Centauri Emperor watched the Alliance fleet depart and turned to his advisors. They are doing it again, racing toward danger to help strangers. Should we follow them, Majesty? Asked Intelligence Chief Veltar. Emperor Thane was quiet for a long moment. Yes, send our fastest ships. If these humans have taught us anything, it is that honor matters more than safety. Similar conversations were happening across the galaxy. The Etherian Collective voted to end their policy of non-interference. The Zephyrian Union offered military support. Even the Trade Federation, usually concerned only with profit, sent supply ships to support the rescue mission. As the Alliance fleet jumped into hyperspace, heading toward unknown dangers to help unknown people. Admiral Peterson reflected on how much had changed. A year ago, when the Valathi had sent their desperate message, the galaxy had been divided into powerful civilizations that cared only for themselves and weaker worlds that suffered in silence. The major powers had ships and weapons and technology, but they had forgotten something important. They had forgotten what it meant to be decent. Now, as word spread, the Alliance was once again answering a call for help. Dozens of other species were following their example. The old galaxy of selfish empires and abandoned victims was changing into something better. Dr. Ross, now serving as the Alliance's chief xenobiologist, sent a message to the fleet as they traveled toward the unknown threat. Whatever we find out there, remember that we are not just representing our own species. We are representing an idea. The idea that when someone calls for help, the right answer is always "we are coming." The message reached every ship in the fleet and beyond that to every world in the Alliance. On Valathi bioships, the crews sang ancient songs of hope. On human vessels, Marines checked their equipment and prepared for another impossible fight. On the ships of a dozen other species, beings who had never met worked together toward a common goal. Behind them, the old galactic powers followed, finally understanding that true strength came not from what you could take, but from what you were willing to give. And in the darkness between stars, another desperate civilization waited for salvation, not knowing that help was already on the way. Because that's what the Alliance did. They stood together, or they fell together, but they never abandoned those who called out in need. The simple human principle that had started with one desperate message was now echoing across the entire galaxy, changing everything it touched. And in the quiet of space, that echo continued to spread, carrying hope to every corner of the universe. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly how it should be.